Welcome to Health and Safety, Hazard Identification and Reporting for the Upper Grand District School Board. Legal obligations. The Ontario Health and Safety Act requires that the existence of any hazard in the workplace be reported to the employer or supervisor. Workers and supervisors are responsible under the Ontario Health and Safety Act to report all hazards, injuries, or illnesses to a person of authority immediately and to participate in the investigation and remediation. Supervisors have the additional responsibility to ensure that corrective actions have been implemented. Only if a hazard is identified can actions be taken to address the hazard and try to stop the accidents before they occur. What is a hazard? A hazard is a substance or situation that can cause injury or illness, damage to property, damage to the workplace environment, or any combination of these. Categories of hazards include safety, biological, physical, ergonomic, psychological, and chemical. Safety. Safety hazards are unsafe working conditions that can cause injury, illness, or death. Safety hazards are the most common workplace hazards. Examples include anything that can cause slips, trips, or falls, such as cords running across the floor or icy pavement. Anything that can cause falls, such as working at heights, including ladders, scaffolds, roofs, or any raised work area. Unguarded machinery and moving machinery parts that a worker can accidentally touch. Electrical hazards, such as frayed cords or missing ground pins. Biological. Biological hazards are organisms or substances produced by organisms that may pose a threat to human health and safety. Examples include exposure to blood and other bodily fluids, fungi or mold, bacteria and viruses, poisonous plants, insect bites, and animal and bird droppings. Physical. Physical hazards can be any factors within the environment that can harm the body without necessarily touching it. Examples include radiation, including ionizing, non-ionizing, including microwaves and radio waves, high exposure to sunlight or ultraviolet rays, temperature extremes, hot and cold, constant loud noises. Ergonomic. Ergonomic hazards occur when the type of work, body position, and working conditions put a strain on your body. They are the hardest to spot since you don't always immediately notice the strain on your body or the harm that these hazards pose. Short-term exposure may result in sore muscles, but long-term exposure may result in chronic physical issues. Examples include improperly adjusted workstation and chairs, frequent lifting, poor posture, awkward movements, especially if they are repetitive, excessive force, especially if performed frequently, and vibration. Psychological. Psychological hazards may cause workers mental distress or distraction. Examples include workload demands, workplace violence, work intensity and/or pace, respect or lack thereof, flexibility in work demands, lack of motivation, and sexual harassment. Chemical. Chemical hazards are present when a worker is exposed to any chemical preparation in the workplace in any form, solid, liquid, or gas. Some are safer than others, but to some workers who are more sensitive to chemicals, even common solutions can cause illness, skin irritation, or breathing problems. Examples include exposure to chemical reactions, chemical incompatibility, chemical storage, and the following substances: flammable, combustible, carcinogenic, oxidizing, corrosive, and pressurized containers. Supervisor responsibilities. According to the OHSA, supervisors are responsible for advising workers of any potential or actual health and safety danger known by the supervisor. After receiving notice of a hazard from an employee, the supervisor will take corrective action if required to mitigate the hazard. If the supervisor is not the person completing the identified corrective action, follow up to ensure the corrective action has been completed and the hazard is no longer present. Hazard identified: uneven pavement resulting in a trip hazard, Corrective action taken. Hazard identified with fluorescent paint. Worker responsibilities for reporting hazards. Reporting hazards to your supervisor when they are first noticed allow for prompt action to be taken, and you are actively participating in the prevention of future potential injuries or damage. Employees do not need to wait for the Joint Health and Safety Committee monthly workplace inspection to report hazards. Some hazards, such as improperly functioning machinery or equipment, needs to be repaired by authorized persons who have special training, but other hazards can be eliminated by you. For example, slip and fall hazards, such as spilled water or coffee that makes the floor slippery, debris left on stairs or ground where people walk, electrical cords laying across the floor. If you can eliminate a potential hazard, such as wiping up the spilled liquid, picking up the debris from the floor, or removing the electrical cord, etc., to prevent someone from getting hurt, please do. Safety first, and remember to report all unsafe conditions to your supervisor. What can you do? All employees have the responsibility to report hazards or unsafe conditions. For example, if you pull a plug out of an electrical outlet and the ground pin breaks, are finished with an electronic device that is plugged into an extension cord that is running across the middle of the floor, notice the safety latch is missing from the paper cutter, notice a fire extinguisher is blocked. You can and should take action and report the hazard to your supervisor. Taking what seems like small actions, for example, picking up an extension cord from the floor, may prevent a serious injury to yourself or others. Preventing a hazard from occurring. A common hazard identified on the monthly Joint Health and Safety Committee workplace inspection is the ground pin missing from an electrical cord. By simply using the correct method to pull out a plug, you can prevent a hazard. Frequently asked questions. What is a hazard that should be reported? This is any circumstance found in the workplace that could allow an incident to occur that might harm people, equipment, or property. Some examples include unlabeled bottles of chemicals, cords across the floor, ladders leaning against the wall that are not secured, liquid on the floor, compromised electrical cords, guards missing. What is an unsafe act that should be reported? This is any behavior that could lead to an incident that might harm people, equipment, or property. Some examples include using equipment or machinery without guards or personal protective equipment, standing on a chair instead of using a ladder. What should be done if a hazard or unsafe act is witnessed in the workplace? Remove the unsafe condition. If not able to remove the unsafe condition, report the hazard to your supervisor. When should a hazard be reported? Any hazard or unsafe act should be reported immediately or at the next available safe opportunity that the employee has to do so. What should employees expect after a hazard is reported? Supervisors have the responsibility to take action to correct the hazard. And don't forget, if you see a hazard, report it.